No, so yeah, 10 things about the developer-tester relationship. Richard Bradshaw, also known as the Friendly Tester. I also blog as the Friendly Tester, and there's a YouTube channel called Whiteboard Testing, which is all about me stood in front of a whiteboard talking about testing, and a few other people have done some as well, which is great. I used to work for Equal Experts. That wasn't planned. I just happened to be in Manchester for the next couple of days, so I thought I would pop along. I've never made it to a Northwest Tester gathering, so this is a great opportunity. So, let's see if this does work. Stuff it. Let's do it this way. So, this is what we usually, well, not usually see, this is what we used to see, and we need to kill this, this notion. So sometimes you get developers going, I hate testers, I hate QA, they never do me bad news, they're always getting in my way. If you don't think that is true, I worked at a rather well-known bank, and I got told they hated me several times because of the information I brought to them and the fact that they always thought I was critiquing their work, which isn't true, as we'll discuss, but I've seen this happen. And I've also seen testers say, I hate some developers, which, again, is bizarre. It shouldn't be the case, but it is still out there. Again, you don't have to believe me, but I know it's true because I've visited some companies recently, and it's still the same. They slam the developers, the developers slam the testers. However, it's rather ironic because we need the developers because they give us stuff to test. The developers need the testers because we keep them in a job. So no, I'm joking. But we help them. So we need the developers because we need something to test. We test in order to help the product get better, and in turn, we give the developers really valuable information that helps them do their job. So sadly, even if you don't think this is true, and if you don't think this is fantastic, but this is still out there and it's pretty depressing. So if you do have this mentality, please drop it. If you don't have this mentality, fantastic, awesome. That didn't work. So yeah, I drew these slides, by the way. They're really good, right? So this has several meanings. The first one is, there's a few testers out there who think developers don't test. This is not true. Developers do far more testing than you give them credit for. If you go and sit next to a developer for a day, they will do loads of testing. Now, the problem lies in they don't call it testing. They will call it debugging, or just seeing if it works. It's testing. It's trying to see what the product does. Does it give us some information back? That is exactly what they do. They do loads of it. Don't say they don't test, because they do lots of testing. In the places I've been working recently, and Equal Experts being one of them, the developers are fantastic testers. They're doing loads of testing. And they're doing lots of automation as well. They're writing lots of automated checks. But more importantly, they're testing. They're trying to compile their product before it gets to you. Has anyone worked at a company where they say you the new build's there, and you go to the URL and you just get a 500 immediately, or a 404? You've not even tried to look at that application. What is wrong with you? But it's true, some developers won't, but a lot of them do loads of testing. Now, it also stands for that people think testing is dead, or testing is going away. That is not true. Testers are not going away. My vision of the future is testers will be in more demand than ever, but they will be testers who actually test. They won't be the testers who sit there writing automation all day. Sadly, you will die. That job will disappear. Whether you like it or not, and I teach people how to write code. I spent today teaching testers how to write code. That will become the developer's job. However, it will be code done with the testers. We will work with them to design what tests should be created, what checks should be put in place, and we'll work together to make it happen. But it will take a very long time to get to that point. But we're going to talk about what more we can do with automation. But at the moment, testing is not going away. It's far in more demand. Developers, I know there's a lot of developers here as well. The way developers are working now is changing as well. We're just pulling down packages left, right, and center off the internet. If you want something to do, you download a library for it. You go on NPM and you pull something down. They're now doing a lot of plug and play to do their work, which is great. There's lots of libraries out there. But from a testing point of view, that gives us loads to explore. What are these libraries working? Are they got full of bugs? Have they got issues in them? How do they compile together? What do they all do? We don't know because we don't look at it. But we do need to look at some of these things and start getting involved and actually do work really closely together. So everyone does loads of testing. It is in demand. The applications are becoming very complex. and we need to work together to be able to test these efficiently. If only the clicker worked. So this leads me on to the code school. This is a line of testers going to the code school, because that's what the market is demanding that we do. The market is suggesting that we all need to start learning to code, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. I speak from a level of knowing how to code, so sometimes I think about it and I go, oh, I've been doing that for a long time. But everyone, if you learn to code, it's just another tool in your box. If you start studying critical thinking, systems thinking, it's another tool in your box. If you become an expert at visualization or modeling, it's another tool in your box to help you do the testing job. Code isn't the only answer. However, so a lot of the time, we don't look at some of the options available to us. Everyone in your company, you have someone fantastic at coding. It's the developers who sit next to you. Go and ask them for help. Go and get support from them. There's a chap called James Back who makes a joke about knowing a good developer is like knowing a friend with a pickup truck. In the UK, I translate it to like everyone's got a family member who's got a van. When you need to move that van or move that fridge or sofa, you call Uncle Bob and he'll come along with his van and we'll move the van. We have people in our companies knowing how to write this code. The skill that I think we need to learn more than ever is what we should automate. So tests as well, we should automate lots of tests and lots of automated checks in place, but we need to be able to think about which ones are important, which ones aren't important. At the moment, we're slightly moving away to being obsessed with being able to automate all this. We're losing the focus on which ones we should actually automate. And that's an actual testing skill. It's not a development skill. And a lot of the people moving, they're losing their testing skills, which is pretty depressing. But you don't have to do that. You can still keep them fresh, and we can learn both side by side. What I would love to see some of these testers doing is going to the code school to learn how to build tools that support the testing effort. So automated tests are really valuable, really important. We can build lots of checks as well, but we can also build little tools that help us do our job. We could build little scripts that manipulate data. We can write code that creates data in our database that helps us test. And if you, like me, you can also build a Slack bot. So I built a Slack bot 2 years ago, which created data in my database. My product owner was actually equal experts. He could log on, go to Slack and say, Slack bot, create me a user. And my little bot would go, what do you want your user to be called? And he's like, I want it to be called Dave. And then he would send it back Dave, and it would create him a user. And it basically stopped him nagging me all day long to create him data. And that's the kind of tools that I want people to build that help keep the product going. As the guy from Code just said, working together to keep things moving. The quicker we can get something to market or live, the quicker we can get feedback on it. And we can do that by learning how to code, but going beyond automated checks and automated tests. We can do a lot more. It's really funny, is there anyone who hires automators in the room? There's probably quite a few of you. It's really funny when you get a CV that says, I'm an expert in Selenium. I've built loads of frameworks in Selenium. Or I've used lots of API. It's really actually quite sad to read those interviews. I want to hear testers telling me how you've built really maintainable frameworks using abstraction and inheritance, and you understand what public and private classes are. You understand the basics of programming, because you do, but you don't talk about it. You run around going, I built automated tests in Selenium, I'm really good. And yeah, it's great, it's added lots of value, but you know more than that. Start sharing how good you actually are at coding. And also, when you talk to developers at that level, they can really relate. They can actually encourage you and teach you new techniques which you can use to do whatever it is you're trying to build. So there's loads of things out there to learn around code. They can help us do lots of things, help us solve the testing problem. But that's the important bit. Don't forget about the original testing problem. We actually had a problem to solve. It wasn't the problem about automation. It was a problem about testing. It was trying to uncover some information about this product. So we can do that by building tools that support the testing. Awesome. Otherwise, we end up with this awesome diagram. This awesome diagram is trying to dictate what happens when we have lots of automation. So we have lots of robots running around. Now, the problem with a robot is they're pretty stupid. They don't really know anything. They only know exactly what you told it to do. And what you did when you wrote this robot, at the time, your application looked a specific way. So you gave it a set of instructions that worked at that moment in time. However, we're trying to be faster, we're trying to build quickly. Code just said they're trying to do exactly the same, which means the next day or a few days later, that robot's instructions aren't good enough. So therefore, we have to go and reteach the robot. We have to go and tell it the new steps. We have to go and say the locators have changed. This is what the new locators look like. The JSON doesn't look like that anymore. It now looks like this. We have to go back and re-educate these robots. And it's a slow, slow process. Because firstly, we have to learn. So we have to go and test it first, or someone has to go and test it to learn how it behaves now, and is that acceptable? And then go and reprogram the robot. It's not very quick. It's not very lean. It's actually the opposite. It's a really slow, long, dubious process. So as I said, we need to be very selective about what we automate, and we need to be very critical about what we have automated. There's a fantastic guy called Alan Richardson who talks about we should focus on what we've automated and what we should automate. He doesn't like to talk about automation. He doesn't really care about it. He just says we've automated this, which means we can look at it, and we should automate this because of X, Y, and Z. And you can do that as a group. You can do that as a team. The project I was on, when I was doing a lot of this, we were doing this in pre-planning. So in pre-planning, we would say, well, what should we automate? How are we going to test this? What tools should we build to help us test this product? And then I don't care who builds it. If I have the skills to build it, I'll build it. If I don't, I'll get one of the developers to build it. It doesn't matter who builds it, as long as it gets built and helps the whole team carry on moving forward. Otherwise, we end up with lots of robots and they all fail. I bet there's people in this room whose job for a period of time has just been to come in, big red build, fix the build, everything's happy, you go to lunch, you come back after lunch, the build's red again, you fix the build again, and then you finally go home, you come in the next day, it's red again, and that's just your life. You're just constantly fixing broken builds, and it can get really tiresome, and it's also it's not fun. It's not actually fun to do this. Any automators in the room, hopefully you can relate. One of the best things about automation is building that initial architecture, that initial framework. It's like super challenging. You make it really awesome and complicated. And then when it comes to build the test, you're kind of like, not interested. It's like the interesting bit was building the whole framework to make it be awesome and really good. Actually then writing the checks or writing the test, it's pretty dull. You just sat there, using your own framework. You want to be building new stuff. And if you take the approach to automation of building lots of tools, you can be building new tools all day long. And it's really, really rewarding. So, some people say that not everyone can test. I strongly disagree. I think everyone can test. Anyone can test. You could go and get someone off the street, give them your application, and they would do some testing. It may suck, but they can test. Every one of these seats, they can all test as well. And we need to encourage that mentality. I made a joke. I've shifted so far left in my last project that I nearly fell out the building. There is so much testing that can take place before the software. I recently changed my bio. I used to call myself a software tester. I call myself a tester now. I can test anything. Anything you put in front of me, I can test. I can test my product owner's vision, their ideas in their head. I can test the developer's model of how they think they're going to create code. I can test many, many different things. But also, the developers can test. They write a lot of unit tests. They try the product. They debug the product. They can also test theories and ideas. Product owners can do it as well. Product owners are great at testing because they suck at telling you what they want. So when they come to test it, they're really good at it because they go, that's not what I wanted. And then you go, well, it's what you asked for. Yeah, it wasn't what I wanted, though. And it's like, well, we didn't really work on that, did we? But anyone can test. So if you're in a company, encourage everyone to get involved in testing. Some companies have tried to do like bug bashes take 2 hours out and get everyone to test. It can be really rewarding. But also, start getting some of these people to pair with each other. It's really fascinating to actually test with somebody else. Because as testers, you will do brilliant things that you take for granted. You're like, why did you test that feature? Why did you test it that way and not this way? Oh, because that's what testing is. It's like, yeah, but why did you do that and not this one? I have no idea. I just did it because. Whereas to someone else, it's a complete amazing what you just did. And we need to be able to articulate that as well. But also watching developers code or watching them test. Why did you test that? It's clearly going to work. I just watched you write that code. Oh yeah, but I had a bit of doubt in my head. And you can actually start building these relationships and appreciating the way both people work. Because at the end of the day, all these are people. People think differently. We need to embrace the fact people think differently. And then we can all be involved in testing things and get more interesting information. Because everyone can test, we just do it differently. And hopefully this person's really good at it. And this person's slightly less, but still really good, and we go down. But Overall, we are meant to be the testing expertise, but we can coach and mentor and help any of these people test. And there's more people than this, I just can't draw that many people. So this is an awesome one. It's a terrible drawing, but it's an awesome what it's trying to put across. So testers are obsessed with going around saying, I broke your product. And to a developer, that's like crushing. It's like, what do you mean you broke my product? So I've spent ages working on this and you just broke it. And it's not true. We never break anything. We actually, if anything, we break the illusion of the developer thinking it worked. The actual product itself, we haven't changed. We haven't changed anything in the product. We've basically, this is meant to be an X-ray, by the way. We basically put an X-ray over the product and we show where it's broken. We show where the mistakes have been made. We don't break it. We just point out where it was or where it has broken, where ideas got misunderstood, where perhaps the developer made the odd mistake. They're human. Everyone's human at the end of the day. We make mistakes. To go along to some desk, and I've done this and I feel really bad about it. You go along to the desk, it's broken, then you leave again. And then they come back to you and you go, I fixed it. And you go, okay, no, it's still broken. And then eventually they come back again, I fixed it again, you go, okay. And then you go, is this guy even trying? You give it back again. And it's really demoralizing. Whereas if we actually sat next to each other and went, I'd like to show you where I think you may have made a mistake or misunderstood this requirement because the system's behaving in a strange way which I wasn't expecting. Can we have a look at that together? Oh yeah, sure. Now have a conversation about it. You can actually talk about what was going on and actually fix it together. The friendly tester name came from that exact thing happening. I went to a developer in a company where there was not a physical wall, but it was all BIM one. And I jumped over it and I sat with them and I said, I found a problem, but it's really hard to write down. I can't articulate the words well enough to actually explain it to you. Can I just show you? And then he went, yeah, one sec though. And then he clicked around some stuff which I didn't understand, but he basically put Visual Studio into debug mode. At the time, I didn't really know what that was. And then he got me to click on the UI, it crashed, it literally blew up, and he went, oh, fuck, like that. And then I went, what? And he goes, oh, I've made a mistake. I knew I'd done this when I wrote it. And then I went, okay. And he went, right, I need 15 minutes. I went, all right, I'm gonna get a cup of tea, do you want one? And he was like, yeah, that'll be great. So I went to make him a drink, came back, he thinks he's fixed it, we tried again, it still broke. And then I just looked at his code, I knew nothing about coding at the time, and went, that doesn't look right. And he went, what do you mean? I don't know, there's too many brackets and stuff. And then he looked at himself and he went, oh yeah, it's not right. And then he made one tweak, recompiled it, and the whole thing worked. And then we had a conversation. As I left, he literally uttered the words, you're the friendliest tester I've ever worked with. And when I came to do a blog, that was the thing that I remembered most. But basically, I could have gone along to him and gone, it's broken, and walked off. And it wouldn't have helped him, because he couldn't recreate the issue. He didn't know what it was about, and I couldn't explain what it was about. So it's one of those bugs that just sits there in the back of Jira, just to die at some point. But eventually, working together, we managed to solve some of these issues. So don't go around saying you break it, because it doesn't sound great. If anything, the developers break it. They're the ones who wrote it. They broke it in the first place. But they didn't intend to break it. When we go around saying we broke it, it sounds like that was our intentions. Our intention was to break this software. Our intentions is to reveal how this software works, and then share that with the wider team. This is what the actual software does. Is this what we wanted? Is this what we expected? If it isn't, let's work together to fix it. Going around pointing fingers and saying it's broken, you broke it, I broke it, I don't care who broke it, it's broken. Let's fix it. Let's work together and fix it. Otherwise, you end up with discussions like this. Works on my machine. And why don't we fucking ship your machine to production? Let's put it in a box, send it to AWS, and put your machine live. I don't care if it works on your machine, it doesn't work on this machine. So, it's a pointless argument, but I've heard lots of it. You can even buy t-shirts. Ministry of Testing even sell t-shirts that say it doesn't work on my machine. But it's a common argument, and it's a pointless one. Even if it works on your machine, get your machine next to their machine and work out what the difference is. Try and find the flaw. Try and find what's making it wrong. Try and work out what the problem is. Going along and just returning back, even developers do it. Well, it works on my machine, I'm not interested. That's not useful. It's actually a pretty dick move. Actually go around and help. Try and work together and come along and say, well, let's see if we can work out why your machine is different. Why is your machine different to my machine? and then see if we can spot what the issue might be. And usually when it works on one machine and not another, it's usually a pretty major thing that's broken or misconfigured. And it's really valuable information. So obviously, in the past, we probably could send someone's laptop to a data center and have it run, but we can't send it to AWS in the cloud. So it's a pointless thing to say. So this is a park. Testing isn't playing. There's this motion that we think exploratory testing is just going for a play. Just have a play with the application. Let's just have a little play around here, see what it does. Exploratory testing, that's not a real word. Exploratory testing is incredibly structured. You might not think it is because you just go along and start testing away, but in your head you've formulated lots of hypotheses. You have a model of how you think the system works. You have ideas that you just execute and you get information back straight away, which you then process and use it to alter your model, alter your hypothesis, and you go again. It's not just clicking around on a UI. We don't just randomly click around. We use something called heuristics, basically rules of thumb to see if we can try something. We use oracles. Everyone has oracles in their heads. It's a way of how we think if something's right or wrong or broken. It's how we think there might be a problem here. Everyone has all these, and you use them as you test. It's not just clicking around, having a bit of fun. We actually are very structured in how it's done. However, no one says that to the other people in your team. The developers think you're just clicking around and having a bit of fun. How did you find that? You couldn't have possibly found that bug. Like, you must have been doing some crazy stuff. And a lot of the time the tester will go, yeah, I was doing crazy stuff. Yeah, I had a really good time. Actually, they were doing something really smart, really interesting, but they can't talk about it. So if you do lots of testing and you find lots of bugs, learn how to articulate what you did. Try and explain why you tested this and not this. And also, if you don't take a lot of notes while you're testing, take loads of notes because they will help you do that. They're really important to explain your testing story, because then you can really explain to the rest of your team how smart you actually are and how much thinking goes into testing. Developers are the same. They don't just sit there and start coding. They have ideas in their head. They have ideas of how they think this should be done. They have libraries they think they want to use. And then they use the same skills. Testing's exactly the same. Otherwise, you go around like the super negative, double negative tester who's really energized by going around being really negative all the time. Got another bug. They sit there in the break going out, yeah, 10 bugs today. Yeah, pretty good, pretty good. I've got skills. However, they don't then talk about the interesting things that they find. They don't go around telling people that, oh yeah, the product worked flawlessly. They don't go and stand behind the developers going, awesome job. Like, I couldn't find any flaws with this. You know, brilliant job. You've obviously understood this really well and it's really great. You know, I've only found this major issue or found nothing at all. We don't do that. Most of the time we're running along with our bug reports, as I said earlier, and going bug, bug, bug. And then we expect a little badge in return, but we don't get badges. So don't be a double negative. Don't be charged by being negative. Share the good things you find. If you don't find anything about the product, go and tell the team what the product actually does do. Because a lot of the time you think there's nothing wrong because what you think, how you believe the system to be. But actually it turns out it may be wrong and all your oracles are wrong about the system. Or it may mean the system is flawless and everyone's done a fantastic job, and that should be celebrated. We don't just say the system breaks or it's broken. We also give factual information that the system does what we all intended it to do. The whole reason why we were in the meeting on Monday was to build this feature, and it does exactly what we wanted to do. We should celebrate that. So, in conclusion, my doodles rock. My drawings are the best ever. No one shouted that, which is really useful. And I did colour in between the lines. But this is the basic answer, and everyone's seen this slide before. But basically, don't be the arsehole in your team. If you are one of these testers who's always really negative, stop doing it. Try and be positive. Try and put a spin on it. If you don't talk to your developers, go and talk to them. If your developers don't talk to your testers, go and talk to them and try and build these relationships, these conversations. Help each other do a better job to build quality software and build it fast. Because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to build software fast and get it to market quicker. But we're also trying to build it of a certain quality that means it lasts. So yeah, if you are this person, please stop being this person, because everyone needs to work together to build awesome software. And to do that, we coach each other, we train each other, we share each other, we have conversations, we work together, we share our skill sets. Testers have their specialized skill sets, developers have theirs, POs have theirs, everybody has them. But when we bring them together, we can do incredible things, and we can do them really fast to an awesome level of quality. So that's what we should do. So thank you for your attention, and now I'm going to get some beer. Thank you.